actually the idea of CST and challenging people and not being afraid to challenge people as well. Just because someone's got a diagnosis of dementia doesn't mean that people can't learn. It doesn't mean that actually we can't challenge, but in a really nice conversational way.
Theoretically, anyone who is diagnosed with dementia should be offered CST. And I think that's really key because they're not. And that's something that people don't know, when they have a loved one who's been diagnosed with dementia, that actually the research shows and this governing body tells us that this is beneficial for everyone with a dementia diagnosis and it should be offered to everyone.
Right, we're live. So good morning and thank you to everybody who's joined us on our Unpacking Dementia session, the first one of 2026. So I'm so glad you've been able to join us today. My name's Ruth and I work for Dementia Adventure, and today we're going to be talking about something called Cognitive Stimulation Therapy, CST for short, and why it can be so powerful. Now, some people may have heard of this term, but when someone receives a diagnosis of dementia, often it can be really challenging to know what's out there. What can I do to help? And it can leave us feeling quite helpless. But actually, CST is something all of us can do a little bit of, and it can make a huge difference. So over the next half hour, we're going to have a look at what CST actually is, who it's for, and how it really does support our brain health, our confidence, and our connection. We're going to be talking about the evidence behind it and how it works in practice. So I've been joined by two fabulous ladies today to really come and explain this to you. So I'll hand over to them to introduce themselves. Kate, I'll start with you.
Hello. Hiya. Thanks for having me today. So my name is Kate Thebron and my background is as an occupational therapist, and I'm the founder and director of Mindful Care Training and Consultancy. So we provide a lot of support and training and consultancy service to lots of people all over the UK and abroad as well, in anything to do with dementia care and wellbeing. But one of our loves and our passions, and one of the things that we're doing a lot of at the moment, is helping set up CST groups. So yeah, it's really exciting to be here today to kind of talk more about it. So thank you for having me.
It's brilliant. Thanks, Kate. And Josephine.
Yeah, thanks for having me. My name is Josephine van der Nissen. I work at Brain Plus, which is a Denmark and UK company. We've developed a digital tool to deliver CST called Isla. But before that, I have myself been a CST facilitator for a number of years, and as an assistant psychologist in the Camden Medical Service in North London. So I've got a bit of practical experience, but also now with the digital side of CST. And I'm really excited to be here and talk about my passion for CST.
Amazing. So we're in the hands of absolute experts today, which is fantastic. So just before we get started, a little bit of housekeeping. Please pop any questions you've got in the chat and we will endeavour to answer those as best we can. But if you've popped a question in and we don't quite get round to it, don't worry, we will come back to you and we will pick that up. As always, I'd like to do a quick shout out to Right at Home, who very kindly sponsor these sessions. So let's start with the basic, ladies. CST. It isn't something that everybody has heard of, but let's start at the beginning. What is it in plain language and who's it for? Josephine, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, so as you already mentioned, Ruth, CST is something that stands for Cognitive Stimulation Therapy. And it's a group-based, discussion-based intervention for people with what we would usually say mild to moderate dementia. It's something that has a sort of prescribed dose, I guess you can say. So it's intended to be delivered twice a week in sessions that last around 45 minutes to an hour over the course of 7 weeks, so constituting a 14-session program. And usually in each session, you have sort of a structure that remains consistent throughout the program, where you would have an introduction, a reality orientation, then a physical and a mental warm-up, and then a main activity that's centered around a different theme that you go through different themes across that 7-week program. As I said, it's something that is for people with mild to moderate dementia. And of course, I think any of us that work with people with dementia know that this can be kind of a difficult thing to judge. And also, myself find it not always that helpful to put people into these different categories. But I guess what you can say is that it is intended for people who are, to a certain extent, still able to express their opinions and their thoughts around different things, who were able to sit in a session for that amount of time, of course, with reasonable adjustments. And I guess because it is discussion based, people that are able to sort of verbally communicate in that way. But in my own experience, I think I found that groups can really be beneficial for people sort of across the spectrum of different experiences with dementia and different diagnoses as well.
Sure. So would it be fair to say that it kind of focuses on that conversation and that connection between people, which we know is amazing and really builds people? Because I think there's always that little bit of a pack mentality in a group, isn't there? Actually, we try a little bit harder, we make a little bit more effort. And actually, I know in the work that we do here, that's very true for people living with dementia when they're away with us. Kate, what does that group look like? What sort of, like, we've used the term activities, which is a real bang, because I think, do we love the term activity? I'm not sure, but actually the reality of what CST does is, for me, it feels so much more human. It feels so much more personal. What does it look like?
Yeah, and I think, I think we've already touched on that the word in cognitive stimulation therapy sounds really good. It's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it? It's a big scare, and you're thinking, oh my goodness. But actually, I think what we're seeing, especially in care homes and the communities, is that we're doing I say this word activities, doing these moments of engagement. We're kind of already nearly there, but it might be just shaping it a little bit more. So I mean, the activities is not just around kind of reminiscence therapy. It's around kind of those new ideas and thoughts and associations. So it's trying to get the activities to kind of help stimulate parts of the brain really, and kind of that engagement. And we do use a little bit of reminiscence therapy within CST as well, but we don't kind of just focus on that, because we know that information in the brain has kind of been rehearsed quite a lot. So we want to be thinking like challenging the brain, but not in a way that we're kind of setting people up to fail. And I talk about CST a lot to people. They say, well, we're already doing puzzles, we're doing quizzes, and I'm like, yeah, that's amazing, that's fantastic, but are we just looking at reminiscence, or actually are we making sure that we've got those new thoughts and associations, and having this group where everyone comes together and it's their group, which is the really lovely thing. It's their group. We kind of help and facilitate it, but especially by the end of the 14 sessions, they're kind of away with it and they're helping plan the next sessions. So, I mean, activities, like I said, they were looking at new thoughts and associations, but it can be things such as, like, one of the themes is like food, for instance. And one of the lovely ones that we've done quite a few times actually in different groups is around foods and cultures, and kind of around the world really, by having like a map and then having different foods. So you've got that lovely sensory element of it, and then having that food tasting and go, okay, whereabouts in the world would this come from, and then trying to identify.
So it's sharing that knowledge as well between the group, isn't it? Because I suppose everybody comes to the table with different views, different understandings and experiences, and it's often a platform to share that and grow that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing.
And I think there's a lot of people are already doing kind of CST sessions, and I work with a music group out in the community, and they do songwriting with people, and I'm like, this is the foundations of CST. We're looking at new thoughts and associations, but they've never heard of CST before. I'm like, you are doing it, and it's amazing. So it's kind of like, how can we shape it a little bit more to make sure we're doing it, but we've already got the foundations there.
Okay, so we've had a question in from Ash, and he said, can CST help someone who doesn't seem to enjoy activities anymore? And I guess it's about that motivation, isn't it? Like, we know for people living with dementia, there's often that feeling of, or you're often met with, aren't you? Like, no, I don't want to do that. Or, you lose that motivation. And I think that comes from many, many places. But can CST really help to motivate and, light that spark again, do you think?
I definitely think it can. I mean, as you said, Ruth, people with dementia often have something that we would call, apathy, which is sadly a part of the condition, and is something that sometimes they don't have much control over. And I think the beautiful thing about CST is that it doesn't just rely on sort of the attraction of the activities or moments of engagement. I liked that, like that very much, but it's also about the group sort of connection that you have, and I guess really fostering a sense of being understood and being seen and being respected, in a period of your life where you might have been facing stigma or a change in yourself or a change in your surroundings. So I think that a lot of the time, at least from what I've seen, that can actually be what pulls people back. It's what you do in the sessions is for some people who might have not been joiners or group people in the past, that sense of actually being understood and seen and feeling included in something can really be a motivating factor to get back. But of course it can be really difficult. So it's not to sort of I think that's important to acknowledge as well.
Okay, we're getting a couple of questions in. So Catherine has asked, I've been hearing about MCST locally via Age UK. What does the M stand for? And does it need to be twice a week to be effective ideally? And I think that this is the big question, isn't it? It's, we've always got the gold standard. What would we do? But I think I'd like to know a little bit about whether actually doing this individually, is that beneficial for people? Is it, ideally we would reach this, but anything is really, really helpful. What are your thoughts, ladies? Kate, I'll come to you first.
So the M stands for maintenance CST. So what you would tend to have is a kind of a group CST, which is for the 14 sessions. And I'll go on to kind of the one or two a week, because that's one of the questions that we get asked an awful lot, especially when you've got so many other things that you're trying to do as well. And then after you've done the 14 sessions, there's something called maintenance CST, which is probably, I think looking at the question, it was around Age UK, I think we're offering it. And this is a longer period. It's not just 14 sessions, it continues, because what the lovely thing is that 14 sessions, you do all this lovely work and you're seeing such amazing things, and then you don't want to be like, see you later, bye. People have got used to that group and have made these connections with it socially and building confidence up as well. So that maintenance then kind of takes over that, and that is around once a week. But yeah, it's really difficult. The research is saying twice a week. However, I know from experience, especially working in care homes and the communities, that's sometimes not possible, because the group, when you're doing a group, it does need to be the same people for that 14 sessions as well. And you've got loads of other things that you need to do and lots of other people that you need to support. So if you can't do it twice a week, I'd always recommend doing it once. I kind of feel like more, if you can't offer two, one's better than not offering it at all. We've seen, again, that the improvements that we've seen within care homes that we've supported, they are only able to do it once a week because they have 80 people, 60 people to support. So the more you can do, the better. I think it's always a benefit.
And if somebody's at home, Josephine, is there a right or wrong way to do CST, or is it still encouragement? What do you think?
I guess there is, a wrong way of doing CST if you're not sort of adhering to the principles that we have. But I think what Annabelle's probably asking is maybe coming from a place of, I think that a lot of carers or people that work with dementia have felt where it can be hard to know if you're moving in the right direction or not. And I think, with CST, maybe there isn't really a wrong way if you're coming at it with that human element that you were mentioning before, and really just trying to meet people where they are and being as inclusive as you can. That being said, there are from the research we have quite a lot of knowledge and a lot of evidence that tells us how CST should be done. That sometimes I think can feel a little bit inaccessible because it is written in these research papers or said in these ways. But I think if you're coming at it from a place of wanting to do something good for the person, then no, you can't do anything wrong. But of course, there is always, and that's why we're in this session today to, I guess, highlight some of the things about CST that make it CST and not just a different kind of activity.
Yeah, sure. And I think we had that conversation, isn't it, that I think, often when we're supporting somebody living with dementia, we're actually doing a lot more than we give ourselves credit for. So, today's about like what we can do to enhance that. But there's absolutely no doubt about it that those group CST sessions, there is the evidence there, isn't there, to show what that does. And actually that moves us nicely on to what I was going to talk about next, because I think we hear so much about CST now, and it is growing, isn't it, in that conversation, because there is such strong evidence behind it. So I wonder, Josephine, if you could tell us a little bit about what that research is, what those key benefits of CST really look like, and what the research has told us around those.
Yeah, for sure. So CST, it's been around for a long time, actually. The first paper, sort of trial or experimental paper, came out in 2003. So it's over 2 decades worth of research. And it was first, I guess, sort of put together as a bit of a Frankenstein monster of lots of different kinds of therapies that at the time people had seen as being effective for people with dementia. So the reminiscence that Kate was talking about before, but also, validation therapy, music therapy, all of these different things. So they put all of those together. 2003, Professor Amy Spector at University College London and her team. And since then, we've just had, a monumental amount of research papers that investigate all the different nooks and crannies and all the different variations of CST, individual, maintenance, digital, and a lot more is coming out around that. But also the secret elements to the therapy that make it effective. And what we see now is we have this kind of established framework of the twice a week, the same group of people, the facilitator and assistant, these sort of key parts of the recipe that mean that we see these improvements or maintenance in cognition as measured by these neuropsychological tests, but also in people's quality of life and in their confidence, in particularly their language skills in the brain. We can see that in the neuropsychological assessments that are used, that this is really where people's cognition is improving, and then that has sort of an overall effect on the brain. So I mean, if you're interested in diving into it, there's a lot to read about it. But I think, just to round off my answer, the key markers of I guess sort of faith is that CST is recommended by the NICE guidelines, which is the National Institute for Care and Health Excellence, which is the body that I guess governs how medication and treatments are recommended in the UK, which also means that theoretically, anyone who is diagnosed with dementia should be offered CST. And I think that's really key, because they're not. And that's something that people don't know, when they have a loved one who's been diagnosed with dementia, that actually the research shows, and this governing body tells us that this is beneficial for everyone with a dementia diagnosis, and it should be offered to everyone.
So I think, there's lots and lots of questions coming in, and actually what you've said really just flags up. It is a bit of a postcode lottery. That doesn't make it right. And I think that's something that we see in dementia support services as a given, depending on where you are, does really depend on what access you've got. And, from a professional's point of view, that brings incredible frustrations, particularly when we know what the research is and we can see the benefits of that. So I'm just gonna lay the question out there for people who can't get to those groups, where those groups just aren't available. What can people do at home, and what does that look like, and will it help? Kate, over to you.
Yeah, so I think there's 2 bits there really. There's group CST, but there is also individual CST as well. So there's kind of 3. So there's group CST, there's maintenance CST, and there's individual CST, which is, it's about 15-20 minutes. And this is lovely, especially for family members, or maybe working in a care home and you've got someone that really doesn't want to come to a group, or, they just need that confidence. And it's lovely because you can train care home carers, family members to be able to do CST, and it's lovely to have that connection. And there are books out there that you can buy that there's CST, there's maintenance CST, and there's ICST. The books are out there to buy for you to get, and actually just to have a look, because there's lots of activities you can do.
And we'll pop a link to what those are after the chat, in the chat. That's no problem. But could you give me an example of a particular, just one activity? What might be really good if you're at home on your own, just to engage, make that brain work a little bit harder when it's one-on-one?
Yeah, definitely. So, one of the areas might be, or I don't know, we can go back to the food element if you wanted to, because again, that's one of the themes, is food. And food's always a good thing, because you normally tend to get lots of people that are interested in food. And it could be just having lots of different things, go, which one do you prefer? What does that remind you of? And it's challenging the brain and kind of getting that question out there. So it might be, having lunch and actually having the conversation. Do you prefer this one, or do you prefer this one? Why do you prefer this one? Does this remind you of anything? Or it could be, there's an element of exercise as well within CST. And again, if you're at home, it could be Oh, I don't know. It could be things such as, say, you look at childhood, for instance, and looking at, um, having some old kind of school, uh, like play equipment or games that you used to play. And again, having that lovely reminiscence conversation, but you could have an exercise element of that as well. Playing
So I
ball,
think one of the
and
things
stuff
we
like
talk
that.
about on our support sessions is like one of the things we love here is getting outdoors because we know that that keeps the brain so busy. But often we talk and we have conversations with people when we're working with them about, oh, this is my favorite flower. Why is it your favorite flower? And it goes back to that childhood of like, actually, in my nan and granddad's garden, like, and that actually that's an element of, isn't it? It's that basic terms of, and so no, it's not the group therapy and that structured side, but actually, if you are starting to have those conversations and question that person that you're supporting to promote that conversation and to promote that thought process, would you agree that that could be helpful for people as a start
Yeah.
point if they can't get to that group or can't access that therapy in their area?
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's got the actual kind of the main idea of CST is challenging that brain in kind of a conversational way that the person doesn't know that they're being challenged. We don't want to be asking questions that looks like a mini mental state assessment. So we're like, what's the day? What's the month? What's this? It is, we know that we can pick something up and, a subject and we can take it anywhere. So we could work with like outdoors and flowers. And like you said, it could then go to childhood. It could then go to the different smells. And what smell do you prefer here? And it could just be that type of conversation. So again, it goes back to, I think we're already doing this, but
Yeah.
it's also given ourselves credit, I think, as care partners and family members to say, actually, the idea of CST and challenging people and not being afraid to challenge people as well. Just because someone's got a diagnosis of dementia doesn't mean that people can't learn. It doesn't mean that
Yeah.
actually we can't challenge, but in a really nice conversational way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've been asked by Dan, she's had lots and lots of good things about CST. How do people access it? Is it different county by county? Does it just depend on where you are and what you're doing?
Yeah, I believe so. So I'm based in Suffolk, and like I said, it's been around for a long time. And I think this is the frustrating thing sometimes, isn't it? That we know that this is such an amazing thing, but it is a bit of a postcode lottery. I know a lot of charities and a lot of Age UK services are trying to get this out. We work with a lot of care homes as well, and they might be offering this to the communities as well. But yeah, I think it is kind of county by county. And hopefully today we can kind of raise a little bit more awareness to say, we need to be doing a lot more CST as well.
Josephine, I'd love to bring you into this at this point because I know one of the aspects of your work is that digital side of CST,
Yeah.
and I just wondered what that looks like and where you see that going in the future.
Yeah, so what we do at Brain Plus is we've developed this kind of digital tool, I guess, to help facilitators deliver CST and kind of bridge that implementation gap, I guess, which is resulting in it not being CST not being available in a lot of places because you need this training that is expensive and can be difficult to find the budget for in your workplace, and there's maybe a bit of a barrier to entry. But anyway, so we've developed this digital tool that people can use that has sort of a wide an extensive bank of activities that have all been validated by CST experts. That mean that people can do a shorter training and go in and deliver CST. But just to feed into this, where you can access CST, I think completely, as Kate said, it is very different county by county. But I would say that a good place to start is to always contact either your GP or the memory assessment service or the memory service that your loved one is linked to, and try and get some signposting through there. And of course, what we'd like to do with what we've done at Brain Plus, and what I think a lot of research is going into now as well at the moment is trying to develop something to be delivered online or digitally, because that is, of course, the way that I think most people can sort of envision CST going to everywhere in the UK and globally. But so far, it has proven a little bit difficult. Kind of mimicking that lovely group element or face-to-face element
Yeah.
in a digital way is quite tricky, but rest assured it's being worked on. But we're a little while off, I think, yeah.
I mean, that is amazing to hear because I think you're right. I think behind the scenes as professionals, we know there's so much research going on into brain health, the benefits of that, at all stages of life, not just post-diagnosis, like pre-diagnosis as well. And, whether we like it or whether we don't, technology is becoming more a part of our life. But I think from what you're saying there, I see that as a real positive. Maybe not right now, but as that grows and develops, and I think I have absolutely no doubt in the future it will do that. But so I guess the message is really reach out to your memory service, reach out to your GP. And I guess at best, the more people that reach out, the more people will hear it's needed, it's wanted, it's understood, and that's often how movements start, isn't it? So don't be afraid to do that. And obviously at DA, we will always keep information coming out to you about any developments in that digital area. But if you happen to go to a CST group locally, let us know how you find it. Let us know, the results of that for the person you're supporting, because I think it's such an amazing program and the evidence is absolutely there. It's not one I've seen directly, but I know my colleague Deneen, who we work with, she's delivered that. And, I know whenever I speak to somebody who has done that, the talk about it is just absolutely fantastic. So I think today I'm hoping it's been really helpful for all of you who've joined. There's lots and lots of questions in the chat and we will get through to those. What we're unable to do, unfortunately, is signpost you to each and every locality, but do reach out to local carers organisations, your GP, practice your memory service provider, because they will be the people that can direct you in your area. And there definitely is lots of groups around up and down the country, so it is just finding those. Ladies, it's been an absolute pleasure to learn more about CST with you and hear the benefits of that and what that looks like. I can't thank you enough for joining us. Is there anything you wish to share before we bring today's session to a close?
No, I don't think so. I'm excited that CST has been spoken about because it is such an amazing, like we've seen it in person. We work with people all the time and deliver CST and we've seen such amazing benefits. And so, yeah, please do go and see, what CST services are in your area or look at setting some groups up if you can as well. But it's fantastic to talk about it. And it is truly remarkable, some of the changes that we've seen. So, yeah.
Definitely. No, thanks, Kate. And Josephine, one final question for you. Is Brain Plus accessible in Australia or is it geo-blocked?
Well, you're in luck actually, Kathy, because we are actually working on rolling out in Australia. So we're not quite there yet. I think there's some sharks chewing on the pipes or something, wasn't there? But we'll be there soon. But all of that information should be on our website. Right now, we're not accessible, I guess, by private individuals. It's care homes and companies that can that we work with. So that's important to say. But just on a closing note from me, I think thank you for having me, first of all. And also, I just, anyone who's watching this, I really want people to feel empowered to actually go out and the internet's your best friend. CST is not something that is inherently difficult. Anyone can do it. And, speak to your memory services because they have a duty of care to you and to deliver this therapy because it is amazing and it can really help people.
So for people, you would say Google it, have a look into it and see what you can pull from it, because actually there is things you'll be able to do. Ladies, that's been so helpful. It's been an amazing insight to a wonderful therapy. So thank you very, very much for your time. All of your questions will be answered, and any links that we've talked about and any of those books we will put links to in the chat. But it's really just for me to say thank you ever so much for joining us, and we will see you on next month's session. Take care. Bye-bye.